Right. It's a rainy morning in Yorkshire at the moment, so I thought I'd just give you a weather check. It's 2020 March 2024. So whenever you're watching this, or wherever you're watching this, so I'm just trying to find a piece that had a bit better burn yesterday, the charcoal. There you go, of the hazel charcoal. So just in case I find in a piece, it's just going to float. I mentioned this before about the flow thing. It determines the actual. This is probably completely. I mean, I'm talking about technique and knowledge and all the rest of it in a minute, but this is probably one of the things that I don't know. It's probably one of the things that aren't really covered in this. Here we go. Look at that piece. That's a cracking piece. Look, that's like a witch's tool. You know, it's like Harry Potter's wand. Look at that. And what's that one that the one that they go looking for? That's the thing. That's the thing that Voldemort wants. That really good wand. Anyway, so I digress. So yeah, witch hazel. Sorry, witch hazel. Hazel. No, you see what I did there? Because I was talking about witches. This is hazelwood, and this is just cheap cartridge. So nothing special. So this is how this came about. And I'm going to talk about is the and I've just watched a guy doing a drawing, and he talks about planes and this, that, and the other, and magnificent. Honestly, it's just incredible. The stuff he talks about when he's drawing. You know, the considerations that he makes when he's drawing, which is kind of what I'm going to talk about now. Is probably the opposite of that, almost like the antithesis of that thing. I always wanted to get that word in, by the way, antithesis. But yeah, it's this thing of, oh, you're going to know all these skills, you're going to know all this knowledge, you're going to be able to do this and that, and if you don't have those things, then it's ridiculous. This is the word that guy used, that it's ridiculous to think that someone could just a beginner could just literally do this. And in a way, I think he's right. It's ridiculous if someone has the sort of mentality that thinks that the only way I'm going to do it is if I do it like somebody else. And the only way I'm going to do it if my outcome is like somebody else's. Because true artists don't think like that. True artists think, this is my thing, this is what I do, and I don't care what you do. That's an artist. These people who just want to make marks that look like a face, to them it would be ridiculous. So as I said, this is the kind of dilemma I think that people face when they're beginning on this journey. By the way, I'm not going to go on for too long with this because it's just it's unnecessary. But I'll do the basics, and I won't go into the details that I've told you about. This guy was doing this technical guy and all this sort of. I can't tell you the way he explained every mark. As far as I'm concerned, that is a line. There's no other way of describing what that is. It's a line, right? So, and I'm going to put a bunch of lines on here, and it's going to look like a face. That's it, right? All this jargon that comes with it is, for me, is probably one of the things. That's why it's ridiculous for this guy, because he's seen one of these people that talk like this, and thought, oh, that's just, well, first of all, he's overwhelmed by this guy's vocabulary, as I was, and it can be daunting, if you're starting out with this. So the first thing is that you can do this, right? I don't care what people are going to tell you. I don't care what you think that how complicated you think making portraits is. I'm telling you now, you can do this. It's that sort of. It's not a can-do mentality. It's not that really, because can-do implies that there is a specified outcome. I can run 100 meters. I can, you know what I mean. And in a way, this is probably you could apply it to, I can make an accurate copy of a face. But that's not what I'm saying. I'm saying you can express your creativity and let it manifest in a way that is your response to the human's face. That's what you can do. You can respond to another human and capture their essence, because fundamentally you can do that all the time. You can make opinions of people all the time. I mean, they may not manifest as a drawing, but you're doing that all the time. So if that's the primary skill, then you've already got it. So this thing about, oh, you're going to learn all this stuff before you can do it, and you can understand all these technicalities. That is really what the art world want you to think, and a lot of people think that. So that's fine. I'm not. And as I said to this guy who thought I was anti-technique and skill, I'm not. I'm not anti-tech. Neither of those. I think the way you acquire those things, I'm a bit questioning of, because I think that skill is a consequence of desire. It's not a consequence of intention, or it is in consequence, but it's not a consequence of predetermined intention. Your intention, my intention with this, for instance, is to capture this face and just really, that sort of film star Errol Flynn kind of look, but and feel that, feel that personality of the Errol Flynn type of individual. But the skills that I acquire or I've acquired through that desire. They are a consequence of that. They're not sort of predetermined. And then, that thing about when you learn to drive, they always say, oh, you just, you learn to drive, then you go out, and when you pass the test, then you go out and really learn to drive. I don't get, I mean, it applies to driving, but I don't think it applies to making art or making portraits. You learn the skills, and then you go out and figure out a way to put them to practice. That what that does is it makes the skills the practice, and determines how you actually apply those skills, because you will look for ways to apply those skills, if you know what I mean. Oh, I can do that. I can color. I'm really good at coloring in. I'm really good at blending and whatever. I'll look for images that allow me to, apply my acquired skills. So right there, you've just set your path. You've set your limitations of where you're going to go. You're always going to be that person that applies the skills that you learn at art college or wherever you learn them. So when really you want to have no skills and then just figure it out as you're going along, because that way you're never going to be restricted in your choice of subjects, in the way you treat them. It's never going to be an issue in terms of or limitation, shall we say? Because that's the thing. You're limited by your knowledge, limited by your skills. If skills and knowledge is your designated approach. But as I said, I'm not against either of those two things. I think it's just the way you acquire them that I question, and then obviously the impact of your acquisition on your growth as an artist. But like I say, I'm not at all. I'm not dissing techniques or skills or anything. I think it's wonderful. We do acquire skills. We do acquire the techniques. It's inevitable. But from a beginner's point of view, I think that I'd rather say to somebody, just do it. Just let the thing. Don't worry too much about, because even with a beginner, a lot of people will try and do it. One example of this is I did a class with somebody, and quite a few people were there, and nearly all of them had a sketchbook to work on, and one or two did have loose paper, but the majority was sketch, and they sat with it on their knee. And I think that the reason they'd seen people doing that, that's how it is. They've seen artists hold the, suspended, which is a way of drawing. But the problem with that is that it's a very difficult thing to do. I mean, not only have you got the vertical horizontal thing, so you're going from a vertical subject to a horizontal subject, and your brain has to then calculate the difference, so you don't get any sort of foreshortening or poor perspective or things in the wrong place, which is one of the curses of proportions, is that people go from vertical to horizontal and wonder why they don't get the proportions right. So that's a thing. People think that's how it is. So a beginner to this would draw in a way they've seen other people drawing, with this kind of trying to, do the outlines of things and make it perfectly accurate first time. And to try and emulate that as a beginner, that's really difficult. Those people who do that have been doing it for thousands of years. Well, you know what I mean, thousands of hours at least. And you're trying to emulate them. So that is the problem. So I'm much more inclined to say to people, just make marks that you think are in any way you like, really, but are more of a response to what you see than a technical execution, because that, as I say, that can come. The one thing about a much more freer approach is that as your outcomes become what they become, and you find your happy place in this process, you may find that you no longer need to consider the technical application of things. However, you may think that you do. You may think that I still want to do hyperrealism or whatever, and that's good. But you're coming from a place of it's not confidence, but certainly of a place of, like I said earlier, the sort of can-do thing. You're coming from that place, even though you're going to then go and learn how to do it, you know, in a certain way, and learn the technical aspects of things, which is good. And that's, so you're coming at it from the right place. It's a bit like going and buying a car when you don't really know what the use of that car will be. But in this instance, well, when you've decided, you know, however you've established your end game, you've decided where you want to go, then you can go and buy your car. So starting off from a point of view of buying the car and figuring out how to use it is the wrong place to be. You got to have at least an inkling of where you want to be or how you want to use your car before you go and buy one. So that's what my thing with technique and this sort of underlying message that, oh, you must know this before you can do this. I mean, I think that as a beginner, I would probably be able to teach someone to make portraits quicker than somebody who has already got experience of doing it, because they've got kind of a predetermined approach. You know, they've got bad habits, they've got all kinds of things that will get in the way. So it would be easier to teach someone who has no experience in doing this than it would be to teach people who have done it before, because it's the same. There are obstacles. But yeah, that's it. As I say, I'm not really looking to go too far with this. I just wanted to sort of talk about this in response to this person saying about I was anti-techniques and anti-skill, anti-knowledge, and I'm not any of those things. And I, to be quite honest, I just watched the guy doing this self-portrait thing and talking. Well, he was doing a copy of a famous painter. So I can't say who it was, because you know who I'm talking about. But he was doing a copy of this, and amazing skill. I mean, he's a famous teacher, I think, in America, and so he's got amazing skills. You know, but it's what I said the other day about inspiration and admiration. I admire people who do those sort of things, who can do those sort of things, but they're not. I don't find them inspirational. I just admire what they do. Same as I admire people who jump out of airplanes with a parachute. I've no inclination to do that, but I admire what they do. And I think that's what people don't get about the inspiration thing. They confuse inspiration with admiration, and ultimately think that that's their motives, if you like. When really it's just admiration. It's just, you know, I admire somebody like that because the hours of work that he's put in, and all the you know, the study that they've done. I admire all that. Will they ever be great artists? I don't know. I don't know how that works. I think the cosmos decides on whether or not, it's a bit like whether or not you see these ads. You know, there's an algorithm, a cosmic algorithm that decides who becomes a famous artist and who doesn't. You know, who gets to those upper echelons and who doesn't. So they say the cosmic algorithm. But yeah, I'm not against any kind of I'm not against any kind of creativity at all. I think all creativity is good. I think it's a danger when you're trying to rationalize it and formalize it. I think there's a little bit of a sort of anti, and I know people keep talking about Betty Edwards and all that, so I'm not really into all that kind of thing. I think the left and right brain coexist. I don't think there is, oh, you shut one off and do the other. I don't think that's the case, but people go for that. It gives them a reason, an explanation. It's sort of, that's fine. But as I said, I think that trying to rationalize this is a dangerous thing. I think that's probably one of the things I suffer with on this, and the reason why on these that I do, and the reason why I ramble is because rationalizing it, putting it into words, is a difficult thing, and often it's detrimental. So try not to talk about it too much. Try not to think of it as you see, the thing is, if there were words to describe what we do as artists, then we wouldn't need to make art. It's that kind of thing, and the explanation for why these marks are like this and this mark's like this, and I think that in a way that is detrimental. I think that particularly if you're a responsive artist, if it's about the response to something, then I think you've got to let that response happen. This is the Betty Edwards thing. So you've got to let that response happen without diagnosing the response, without dismantling it and saying, oh, I just unhooked that bit and then I added that bit and then I did this bit and then all of a sudden, hey presto, it's worked. It looks a bit like that famous Sargent painting, that charcoal. He's got that because it's the quiff. I know his proportions were a little bit off, but it's got and it had a very sort of high forehead, but it's got that sort of Sargent feel about it with the hair. But yeah, as I said, he, as soon as he's trying to diagnose and analyze your mark making, I think that's the point at which you're on the wrong road. It's not, that's the point at which we become just production artists. That's all that is, and the production matters. So and that's really, it doesn't matter. It matters that you capture the essence of somebody. That's what matters. The production, how you do that doesn't matter. But anyway, so that's me done. I think I'm going to call it a day and say that I do like this Sargent-esque feel about this. I don't want to blow my own trumpet or anything, So, oh, and by the way, whoever somebody said it again about the ASMR. I think that's what it is. I have no idea what that is. I don't even know I'm doing it. If that's a thing, then I apologize. If it gets in the way, if it sort of disrupts the process, I'm so sorry. I have no idea how I'm doing it, if I'm doing it, and why I'm doing it. I don't know why it's occurring. It might be just the mic. I mean, I've got a better mic now, so it obviously it might be that that's causing it. And the way that the sound bounces around the studio, I don't know. Anyway, right, I love you, leave you. And but the fundamental is you've just got to have the mindset that you can do this. You can do it because nobody else's rules. Somebody else's rules aren't your rules, or somebody else's outcome isn't your outcome, and that's why you can do it. You can do it because that's as complicated as it's going to get. It's never going to be, or it shouldn't be, abiding by somebody else's rules. You should just do it, and ultimately, when your confidence grows, then you can decide if you want to adopt somebody else's approach or somebody else's rules. But you might find that having this approach develops all kinds of skills and techniques that really, providing you're honest with yourself and it's your honest intention, honest marks and all that, you might find that you don't need to go down those routes. But it's good to find out first of all exactly if you need to or not, because otherwise you might spend years chasing something and when you catch it, you realize you didn't want it. So that's the problem with skills and techniques first kind of approach, it will always take you in that direction, whether you like it or not, and you'll be stuck with it, because that's why a lot of people complain about my videos, because they're invested in a certain approach, a certain method, and a certain way, and I'm questioning that. I'm probably making them question that, and that's hard when you've spent decades doing it a certain way. For someone to come along and do it completely different, it sort of makes them question, and that's as I say is I think fundamental reason why a lot of people complain about what I do. Anyway, I'm going to go and I'm going to go and have my breakfast actually. So it's that time of day. And I'll catch you in the next one. I tried to do this last night, but for some reason, and it's working this morning, some reason YouTube, there was no sound on it. So sorry about that. If you saw that and watched me rattling through this and not hearing a word, not that I said anything spectacular, as normal, really. That's nothing new, is it? But yeah, I apologize. It's technology sometimes just doesn't. I mean, it's wonderful and terrible at the same time. Technology, isn't it? So anyway, as I say, I love you, leave it, and have a great day.